of the things they don't tell you when you are in corporate is that you have to not only master being great at what you do and all the things, but you also have to master whiteness. Walk with me. So often than not, we try to hyperfixate on like how to play the game of corporate and all the things, which again is not the battle and not the strategy you should be trying to figure out. What you need to do is study whiteness, study white supremacy. And I'm talking about their culture, their mannerisms, all the things that fuel their ego. Study that and you will win. You got to understand how white women play corporate games. You got to understand how white men love to have their ego inflated. And also, how do you like to position themselves in terms of the social dynamics when there are other people of diversity on the team? How do they utilize and weaponize and triangulate black men versus white women versus black women? Study that behavior. Study it. You got to also study how black men operate in corporate, because that's also studying whiteness. And you got to also study black women who love to assimilate and how they try to emulate whiteness inside of a corporate space. You got to study and you got to watch it. And I honestly think once you can master all of those things and you can really put down a playbook for yourself and the environment that you are in, because nuance is key, you can win. You can win. Strategize. It's a game. You gotta let a game. Because a lot of people, especially, I think, no shade to my palm people, but they love to study us. They love to study us. You can look at all the research projects in the world. You can look at all the evidence-based practices. You can look at all the things we see, waterfall down to us, to the masses. And all of it is rooted in studying blackness. But how often do we as black people study whiteness and how it shows up in all of our systems, in your pocketbook?
If more people just do you think that the average person in corporate America, that any person, not even just average, that any person in corporate America is sitting here saying, hey, listen, let me figure out how I can deal with black people more effectively so that I can level up in corporate America? Being a cultural fit is just not being an a-hole while at the same time adding value to the group and learning how to network effectively. If white supremacy was white supremacy in corporate America, you would never get promoted and you couldn't win. It was impossible. For me to even be able to ascend to the top of the corporate ladder, to some of the corporate ladders, not the very top, but to have accomplished the things that I've accomplished would mean that white supremacy is not a thing in corporate America. I don't understand. What people don't understand, and they keep on making this a race, everything is race, is that it is a class war. And if you cannot add value into the group, nobody wants to deal with you. Nobody wants to be associated with you. They are not interested in dealing with somebody that is going to be problematic regularly while not adding value into the group. It is a very simple equation that does not take a ton of brain power to figure out that people want to be around people that they like. It's just simple as that. It is, and that doesn't mean that there's not racist people in the world, but God, it has become obsessive at this point. So literally go in a job that they applied for and then start to figure out who the villains are based off of their race alone and not based off of their character. It is, bro. It is a disease. It is capturing the minds of black women and black culture, and it's affecting y'all in the worst ways possible, bro.
Study it, learn the game. Jump in.
I am a firm believer that black women are not meant to succeed in corporate America. A lot of people are talking about the mass layoffs of specifically black women in corporate jobs, and I think it's because we are not meant to succeed there.
I'll be having to just take a minute. When I listen to the opening statement, remember in school when they used to say that, in order to write an effective paper, now y'all got AI, so y'all don't even know how to write in cursive, but in order to write an effective paper, you have to give a thesis and a hypothesis, right? In which you're trying to break down, and then you want to break down your next paragraphs, right? You give your thesis, it's an hypothesis that you're trying to explore. And then in the next 3 paragraphs, you then break down the 3 reasons why, X, Y, and Z. And then in the final paragraph, it's the summary. The thesis, the first statement that you're making is mind-blowing. It's like, yo, let me take a minute and figure out what the hell are we listening to and what we working with right now. It's just like, how is it just
Corporate America is based off of Eurocentric values of what professionalism is. And a lot of that has to do with submission. Black women culturally, we grow up in matriarchs where the women in our family are outspoken, that they are the leaders, that they're the ones holding our community together. So when we move into corporate America, it is expected that we submit. And that is not our innate way of being. And then we're quickly labeled as difficult, when in reality, we are the innovators. We understand the balance of quantitative and qualitative impact. And a lot of times our voices are silenced because they don't care about that. So if you are a Black woman and you are struggling and you just got laid off, just know you are not the only one.
Can I tell you about one of the greatest schemes I've ever come up with as a Black woman? Keep watching all this corporate content, right? A lot of corporate content, specifically with Black women, talking about the hardships that they're having in the workplace, namely with white women, not leaving them alone, creating problems, calling them aggressive, accusing them of having something wrong because they're not smiling, just overall racism, right? And it was an hourly job, but I worked in one of those the government buildings, and there was this team of white women that were so racist that my boss at the time felt so bad. She pulled me into a back room. She was a white woman. Pulled me into a back, closet kind of room and was like, I'm so sorry to tell you this, but they're coming after you. And they're having staff meetings about you, but not including you in the team, the team calendar, right? And the subject matter of the staff meeting was me. I was the only Black woman. I was the only Black person. In the same place of employment, when I first started working there, there was the only Black people that worked there, and probably still do, were Black janitors. And there was this old Black woman janitor.
if the title of the subject, if any email, any meeting, calendar invite, minutes taken, whatever, if any of that happens, right, in any government building, in a government job, do you know the type of fallout that would happen if that was on record? I'm not saying what she's saying is true, not true. I don't care what it is. I'm just going based off of what's being communicated.
Who pulled me to the side, and she was like, they don't like Black people here. Every Black person that works here leaves very quickly. Next thing you know, shit starts blowing up, hitting the fan. There's lie on lie on lie that's being told, right? I got called into a meeting. Now, mind you, I was 20 years old. I was 20 years old and an hourly employee, not important, didn't hold any level of influence. And I'm talking the department head who's supposed to be busy. She called a meeting with me and the whole team. It was the team on one side of the table and me on the other side of the table, and they left the light off and closed the door and locked it. The complaint was that
Y'all believe this? In a government building.
someone said that they told me good morning and I didn't say it back. The craziest thing is that never happened. Just making shit up. And the department head, she got in my face like this, and she said, if I ever hear, this white woman, if I ever hear that you don't tell another person good morning, if I ever find out that you don't look them in the eye when they speak to you, you're fired. I learned at that young age, when I was crying, walking out, that I was never going to allow another white woman to ever be able to speak to me like that ever again. And I also learned that there's only one way to beat that game, and that is to become the head of every department you can ever get your hands on. So now, when people talk about corporate culture and how do you handle it, I handle it by being at the top of the food chain because it's a deterrence. Now, it does not stop white people from fucking with you, but it does deter them and it does slow them down. And when you're at the top of the food chain, you do have more things that you can do in order to protect yourself and to save yourself and to advocate for yourself. And if you want to limit being mistreated in the workplace, you probably want to consider being HR. Be the mechanism that white people are not likely to use to protect you. Not only can you use it to protect yourself, you can use it to advocate for others. There's nothing like having a black woman that's the head of HR. And that is because she can see everything. She can see racism, she can see sexism, she can see bias, harassment. She's a woman and she's black. She can see the whole goddamn thing. And at a minimum, if you don't want to do that job, then you do need to educate yourself and you do need to know what your rights are in the workplace. And don't just be out there letting them do what they want to do to you. They probably legally can't. You probably just don't know yet because you didn't educate yourself.
Let me know what y'all think inside. This is all y'all. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments.